When you think of a duel, do you think of two cowboys waiting for high noon to pull their pistols? Maybe you think of two gentlemen standing back to back to walk their 10 paces. Then they turn around and shoot. Duels predate the invention of gunpowder. So if you wanted to duel someone pre-firearms, you really had to want them unalive because it was about to get very up close and very personal. The first duel in the New World occurred when Edward Doty and Edward Leicester sword fought in 1621 Plymouth. Now you'd think in a designated stabbing match, somebody would have been fatally poked. I mean, after all, we humans tend to be leaky water bags. But surprisingly, no, the two men lived. And after their engagement, the two men were sentenced to be chained together for 24 hours. Almost like when you and your siblings fought as children, your mom would put you in the timeout shirt to kind of hug it out. Back in the day, it didn't take much to provoke a duel. Casual insult on one's honor, a legal dispute with a neighbor, or like one of the subjects of today's video, finding your girl playing bruise the beef curtains with another man. The rules to a duel, they were pretty straightforward. Two participants would follow a code de duello, or pretty much a code of etiquette. Now, if the offending party didn't apologize for the insult, the challenger would pick a location and a time for the engagement. Then the two men would pick a second. The job of a second was pretty much a middleman, a wingman, a best man, your only friend in this. If one of the duelists wanted to call a meeting, well then the two participants would send their seconds to act on their behalf. But the other job of the second was to kind of make sure the duel was on the up and up. Because nothing says don't cheat like catching a hot one in the back from a second. I mean, if one of the participants cheated, then they were fully within their rights to even the score for the victim party. With great power comes great responsibility, and that responsibility was usually passed down to a family member or a really close friend, because who else in this world are you going to trust? In 1808, two men fought half a mile above Paris with flintlock shotguns in what became one of the craziest duels in history. Now, what would make two men fight in the clouds, you ask? The same thing that has been the downfall of many men, a woman. And in this case, it's the literal downfall of a man. When a man named Monsieur Grand Dupree found his sweet Madame Monsieur Trevette playing a game of Attack the Pink Fortress with another man named Monsieur Despic. The two men knew that only one of them could have Miss Madame Trevette and her sweet slam clam. So naturally, they agreed to a duel. Because the only way that they could sort this out is if one of them got sent to the big crepe in the sky. Being the fashionable Frenchmen that these two men were, a normal pistol or sword duel just wasn't trendy enough. So the men, they had to up the stakes. Literally, taking it a half a mile into the sky saddled in hot air balloons. Armed with blunderbusses, two men would go up, two men would come down. Just one man would come down slightly faster than the other. On the morning of May 3rd, 1808, the two men and their seconds loaded up in their balloon baskets, taking off from Paris's Tuileries Garden. Armed with their caveman shotguns, the two men both planned to not aim for the small swaying balloon basket. They were going to aim for the larger fragile cloth balloon itself that held the basket in the air. Now, can we just take a second to recognize exactly how stupid, brave, brazen, ballsy, whatever you want to call these seconds, these two men looked at their buddies and like, yeah, I trust you. We're either going to die together or we're going to come down victors. These were the ultimate wingmen and they had the ultimate fuck it attitude. Either way, I'm here for it. I love it. Let's keep going. When the ropes anchoring the balloons were cut, the balloons began to ascend. And when they began to rise, a crowd formed underneath because they were expecting to see a friendly balloon race. I mean, after all, it was 1808. What else are you going to do? Watch paint dry? This was a far cry from today's iPad kids. Like, you can give a kid a ball and a cup back in the day and they were perfectly happy. Thank God we live in the 21st century because that shit sounds terrible. Half a mile in the sky, the two combatants were given a signal from the ground, and I'm really curious what that signal was. Was it like a handkerchief waving, a shot? Because like that's a half a mile. What are you gonna see? A fucking signal fire? Anyway, a signal was given, and the duel commenced. Despic, he started off the duel with his shot completely missing, and I don't know how he missed. He had a shotgun. The blimp was the size of a barn. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, I guess. Luckily for the Cuck Grand Prix, though, he had a lot more accuracy. His shot popped the balloon, causing a long drop with a quick stop. But remember, kids, it's not the fall that you have to worry about, it's the landing. The crowd witnessed the balloon fall, with one observer commenting it was dashed to pieces on a housetop. Yeah, DePique and his second, they didn't make it. After the hard-fought battle, Grand Prix and his second, they took a victory lap, ascending higher into the clouds. And that night, the legend has it, Grand Prix, the cuck, him and his sweet Mademoiselle Trevette, they played Bam Bam in the Ham all night long. Now bear with me for a second, this part's kind of fun. This balloon duel became the world's first air-to-air combat kill. Bear with me, hold on. Two men went up in separate aircrafts, both men fired projectiles at each other, and one man returned home. That's a fucking air-to-air kill, and there's not a thing you can do to change my mind about that. Ancient problems require modern solutions. And this circles us back to something I've said in a previous video, McNamara's morons. The hammer isn't always the sharpest tool in the shed, but for the subject of the second part of our video, Miyoda Musashi, that hammer is still pretty useful. Now what happens when one of the greatest swordsmen in Japan finds out that there might be another contender for the title of fastest sword in the Pacific? Well, exactly what you think happens. He challenges him because apparently there really isn't enough room in this town for the both of us. This is exactly what happened when Sasaki Kojiro challenged the greatest samurai to ever walk Japan to a 1v1 winner-takes-all duel. A lot like Helen Keller at an orgy, Sasaki had no idea who he was fucking with because Musashi killed more men in sword fights than Freddie Mercury. Given the choice of location, Musashi chose the beach at Ganryujima, an isolated island off the Japanese coast renowned for its finer silty sand. A terrible place for one to lose their footing. April 13, 1612, Sasaki paced up and down that beach pissed off because he was feeling the ultimate disrespect. His opponent was late. Now, did Musashi do this because he was a disrespectful asshole? Maybe, but no. He did this because he wanted to enrage Sasaki. That would break his concentration, thus throwing him off his game. Soon in the distance, Sasaki saw what looked to be a homeless man paddling a rowboat towards the beach. But as the boat got closer, Sasaki saw that that raft captain wasn't a catalytic converter collector. It was Miyoda Musashi. Like John Rambo in First Blood, this disheveled looking homeless man was actually a cold calculated killer. Because when he rolled up onto the beach, he presented his weapon of choice. It wasn't your standard katana of the time. It was the same boat oar that he paddled up with. Musashi was about to duel this man like your Uncle Dan defending his favorite fishing hole. Sasaki was the first to make a move, swinging his blade low. However, Musashi was a master of the katana, and apparently the boat paddle. Because he sidestepped Sasaki's low blow, jumping in the air, bringing the full weight of that paddle onto Sasaki's forehead. Before Sasaki could even drop his katana, Musashi and his multi-tool of death were on their rowboat paddling off into the sunset. Now we learned 3 things in this video today. Never shoot first, never swing first, and always bring a paddle. If you enjoyed my video today, then please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, see you beautiful bastards in the next video.